everyone, this is Julia from abbasheart.net. Today I have a stripper's story time for you. This is a true story of how I almost got trafficked. So if you want to hear more about that, keep listening, and also keep in mind that this video is not appropriate for underage kids. Anybody under the age of 16 probably shouldn't be watching this. But it's also a cautionary tale of truth of what can happen in the stripping industry. So if you have a teenage girl that you think it's important for her to hear this message, then maybe this is for her. So this is something I think that adults should watch and discuss with each other if this would be good to share or not to share. Take it where you want to take it. I hope you enjoy it, and please stick around for part 2, which will be in a separate video. I want to start off by saying, for safety reasons, I'm not going to tell you the location or even the real names of the people involved. So as most of you know, I was a stripper for 12 years. That's a long time. And every single gentleman's club I've ever worked at always seemed to employ ex-police officers, ex-police captains in positions of management. And this was just kind of a running theme through all the clubs that I've worked at. For a long time, I had no problem with this. I actually felt safer because the police were right there. And this gave me a sense of security. I didn't realize till a lot later how wrong I was about that. So I just want to start off and give you context for the story. Before I delve into the juice of the story, I think you need to get a background of what the club is like. So how most clubs work is they have a VIP section. And there's like the general dance area where people will buy dances for like say $20 for a dance, and a song is about 2 minutes long. And that's kind of how the girls make money on the floor. And you can make a great amount of money on the floor just doing table dances on the floor. And then they have what's called the VIP section. And that's where they sell packages of an hour or 2 hours or 3 hours, however long a party wants to stay. And you can reserve your girl or however many girls you want starting at about $500 to $1,000 for these VIP rooms. And of course, champagne is involved, and so the waitresses are making a cut of the champagne. Everyone's making a good chunk of money, including the management, who takes, I think, about 20% of what we make. So you can also make money on the stage. So the stage is the least place that any dancer wants to work. You pretty much make tips from the stage, and single dollars or $5 or even $10, most people don't tip that much, $10 on stage. It's usually just very little compared to what you could make. Let's say a girl who dances on stage for 3 songs, because the set is about 3 songs, she could be making $60 plus tips on the floor, as opposed to a few dollars or even a couple of $5 on the stage. So the amount is so much less that most girls don't want to work this stage. But the caveat is, if you work on stage, then people have a chance to see you. So people who do want to spend big money will have a chance to kind of see the goods and see if they like you. And that gives the dancer an opportunity to showcase herself. So there's like pluses and minuses of all of those situations, but that's basically how a strip club works. Most dancers try to tip the DJ pretty well so they can make their money in the floor or the VIP section. Unless the night is really slow and they need to drum up some business, then they would say, let's go on stage. But pretty much nobody really wants to go on stage. So my personal thing is, I did not have an issue with doing table dances on the floor. With the VIP section, even though you make more money, you can also have the opportunity to have more pressure put on you. And how I usually worked it was, I would do dances on the floor, and if somebody really liked me and wanted to go to the VIP, I would say, okay, we can go up there, but here's my rules. There's no touching, blah, 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 blah. This is what I expect. And that put the power in my hands. So if you were to walk around the room and ask people, let's go in the VIP, let's go in the VIP, then the power is in their hands. And they would say, well, what am I going to get in the VIP? And then, then the pressure and all of these icky situations would come up. So to avoid all that And to not have to deal with that, I usually just worked the floor, and then if somebody wanted to go up to the VIP, the power is in my hands, and I could decide whether this person was going to be annoying for an hour and I'd have to deal with them trying to touch me or whatever, or just lay down the rule for them like, hey, this is how it is, and the power would be in my hand. I'm saying all this because it kind of leads to somewhere. I'm painting a picture of exactly how the club works so you can understand the red flags that I was seeing, things that were not natural for the environment, and why this was something I should have paid attention to at the time. So there were a few girls in the club that never ever worked the floor, which is very odd because that's just not how the business worked. And the way this club was set up was that there were chairs along the back corner of the room. And usually the girls that hung out in that area, they would smoke cigarettes, and that was like kind of like a break area where it was a little separated from the dance floor, and guys kind of could tell that these girls weren't really interested in actually working. They just wanted to smoke a cigarette and chit chat with each other or take a break. And that's kind of the feeling that you got from that section. So that wall was against the VIP wall. So if you were sitting against that wall, you could literally walk straight up to the VIP as well. So I noticed that there were a few girls that would sit there all the time and then would just go straight up to the VIP. You would see them disappear and they would just be up in the VIP for the rest of the night, which is very, very odd. And the VIP was very expensive, so to book a VIP after VIP after VIP to the end of the night was a very lottery situation. So to have these same girls kind of hit the lottery every single night, especially since they weren't going on stage, they weren't being seen on the floor, did not make a logical sense. But I was busy, and I really don't put my nose in business that is not of mine. That's just my personal policy. I try to keep my questions and my concerns and my thoughts to myself because I just didn't like starting trouble in places like that. But I did notice it, and I thought it was a little weird. So one of these girls, her name was Layla. Of course, this is a fake name, but this was her dancing name, Layla, and she was Polynesian descent. She was really tall, actually. So I have Asian in my background, and I'm of the shorter persuasion of Asian, and then there are taller Asians, and she was a really beautiful, tall girl, and which was kind of unusual to see such a tall Asian girl. And so she was one of the girls that would just sit along the wall and just get customers that would just seem to kind of fall in her lap, so to speak. This girl didn't like me, but she didn't hate me. She just was very neutral towards me. I say all that because it sets it up for the rest of the story. So after working one night, the manager, I'll just call him Billy, asked me about working a modeling job. This manager I had been working with for quite some time. So I've worked at this club for quite a while, and he was very respectful of me. I was respectful of him. I felt very comfortable with him. When I got engaged and introduced him to my fiance, John, basically, used to be a cop. So this guy was a cop, and he bought him a few drinks, and so we got along on a personal level as well. Because I was the kind of dancer that didn't start trouble, didn't start gossip, didn't steal money from customers, always came to work on time, always paid my house fee on time. I was an easy person to work with for him. So we had a very good working relationship. Billy knew that I was a legitimate model. So I actually went on modeling auditions. Sometimes I would call off of work because I had a legitimate modeling job and I was trying to build up and kind of get out of this job. And this job was supplementing me not getting that much modeling work. So he was supportive of that. And the fact that he asked me to do a modeling job, it didn't surprise me, but I thought it was a little weird. He asked if I would help his friend out. And this friend was another former police officer that was doing police training videos. And he said he needed a couple of models to kind of fill in this scene for him. I thought it was really strange. Like, why would you need models for a police job? Like, this doesn't really make sense. I had auditioned for promotional type of videos before, and the work seemed really cheesy. The way that he described it wasn't something I wanted to do or needed for my portfolio. And so I just kind of asked him again, like, what exactly does this entail? Please tell me the details of this. And he said, well, you're not going to be in the training part of the video where the cops are going to be doing their training, but you will be like a fun little bit that they're going to add, like a bloopers type of funny thing that they're going to add towards the end of the video, just to kind of keep the cops awake and make it kind of fun. And so I said, oh, okay, well, just explain a little bit more about the scene for me. And he said, well, my friend needs 2 hot girls to walk alongside of him on the street. And basically like, you know, having, you know, cute outfits and then walking on either side of him on the street. And I thanked him and I said, thanks so much for thinking of me, but this just doesn't sound like something that I need for my portfolio, and I don't know what it pays, but, and he told me, and it really wasn't that much. It was, I think it was like $500, and I could not pay my house fee that night, which is like $150. So basically like $650. So I just said, you know, I'm just gonna pass on this, but thank you. And he says, Skylar, just do it for me. Besides, Layla will be there. You know her, and you won't be by yourself, and it will be fun. You'll be doing me a favor. The whole time I've known Billy, he never really asked me for a favor, and I just felt like he was my friend and I should just do this for him once. I just thought about what a nice guy he was. I focused on the fact that he was a retired police officer, and this was a training video, so it's got to be pretty professional. And even though I wasn't personally friends with Layla, she was pretty street smart. So for her to be comfortable doing this, I thought, you know, I should get comfortable doing this. Like, what's the big deal? If she thought it was worth her time, and she was one of those girls who made so much money in the VIP, if she thought it was worth $500, then maybe I should think it's worth it. I don't know. I started to question whether I was just not seeing the benefits. I also just kept thinking, this guy is a cop, you know, he knows my husband. Like, why would he have me do something stupid or waste my time or put me in danger or anything like that? He seems pretty legitimate. I've known him for years at this point. I really didn't want to do the job, but I really liked my friend and I thought I would be doing him a favor. So I pushed against my intuition and I said, okay, I'll do it. I'll do it for you. So Billy tells me to pack a couple of bikinis and a sexy dress, and the shoot would probably take about 2 hours max. He even said, you can work later on that night. You just come in that night, you won't have to pay a house fee, everything's waived. So, you know, why not just do this 2-hour job and make some good money? So when I arrived at the location of this shoot, I was kind of confused. Layla was standing on the street with a short blue dress on. Just really short, something you would see in a strip club, something you should not be seeing on the street. It was sexy, but it was like really inappropriate. And I was made to believe that we were going to be 2 glamorous girls on either side of this well-dressed man. Like, that was the scenario. But the shoot was in front of a seedy motel. We were in a bad section of the city, and this girl was dressed like a hooker, basically. The scene did not look good. Let's just say that. I'm a model. I'm used to professional photo shoots and things that look beautiful and glamorous. And this was not glamorous by any stretch of the imagination. It was seedy and ugly. One thing I remember was there was no professional lighting. And there was 2 camera guys and no professional lighting. And I have never ever been on any photo shoot where there was no professional lighting. Even people who do YouTube videos have a light setup, a little ring light or something. There was none of that. So for about 10 minutes, the scene was having us walk up and down the street, 1 girl on either side of this gentleman. I'm gonna call this gentleman Rob. Rob was gonna be standing in the middle, and he was gonna have 1 girl on one side of his arm and the other girl on the other side, and we were walking up and down the street. He was dressed with a furry pimp coat. Okay, I was so uncomfortable, but I was already there. At this point, there was like, I was just there. So what could I do? He told me he was going to be dressed nicely. My friend, the manager, told me he was going to be dressed nicely, and their interpretation of dressing nicely was looking like a pimp. So what can I do? It was all semantics at this point. I obviously understood the scene wrong. I'm telling myself this because I'm really like in shock of how bad it's getting. I thought it was bad when I heard about it, and he made it sound so much better. But when I actually came here, I was like, oh wow, this is even 10 times worse than I thought. About 15 minutes in, they say it's a wrap. So I'm excited, like, yes, this nightmare is over, and hopefully nobody sees this. I don't want anybody to see this. Rob, who's the director, the producer, the star that's in this job with me, says the next scene is inside the motel. So the warning bells, if they weren't going off before, because they were kind of going off, were just bing, 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 bing. Like, I'm like, oh my gosh, what is going on? My heart is like pounding. I'm finding it hard to breathe. And I just kind of grab on Layla's arm and I'm like, what did he say? No, no, no. We cannot go into a motel room with those men. No, 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 no. No. Layla, she doesn't really look scared. She doesn't look ruffled. She doesn't seem bothered by it. And I'm just kind of in shock that this girl who's very abrasive, very street smart, way more street smart than I ever was just handling this like it's not a big deal. And she says to me, it's nothing. Skylar, don't make a big deal out of this. We will be done with this job in a little bit, and just don't draw this out, okay? Don't make this longer than it has to be. So I'm like, how could you not be freaked out? Rob comes over and he's like, hey, what's the problem, sweetie? What's going on? It's just a short scene. Just come inside and we'll work it all out. There's nothing for you to worry about. And he heads towards the door of the motel room, which is facing the street. The crew of these 3 men step into the room, and so does Layla. And Rob keeps talking as I hover in the doorway. They're waiting for me.